Welcome to the Rise Above Show with Patricia Joe Grover, where we rise above our challenges and turn believers into achievers. Today on my show, I have Michelle Faust. And let me tell you a little bit about Michelle. She is the founder of The Lemonade Legend, which is a company offering both print and media exposure through her anthology book series, digital magazine, a publishing house. She has a podcast, she does virtual stages, and has two upcoming TV shows. Her mission is to give people a voice, share their stories, and elevate them above the conventional noise. There is power in storytelling, and her platform celebrates voices of individuals who have tackled lemons and created unique versions of lemonade opportunities. Oh, so happy to have you on this show, Michelle.
Oh, thank you, Patty. It's so good to be back. I have been on once before. We've both been on tremendous journeys since then, and so it's pretty exciting to have a chance to reconnect and catch up a little.
Yes, yes. And so part of the journey, and we'll talk a little bit about life's journey right now. So one of the episodes or segments I have on my show now is This Grammy Doesn't Knit, She Cliches.
Yeah.
And what I mean about that is just it's a asking out of curiosity, what words of wisdom did you hear as a child? And then I want to know what those things, what those words or that phrase meant to you then compared to now.
Um, that's great. And I sent you that phrase. I forgot what I sent you. But this is the beauty about the show, right? If we just kind of did I put that out there?
You didn't send it to me. You had just told me what it was, and I thought it was fantastic. But
okay. So I apologize about that. I've been going like Mach 60 right now. I actually have so many different phrases that I could talk about, and this one is not what I sent you, but I'm going to say it because it honors my mother.
Okay.
And it makes me laugh.
Okay, great. We all need a laugh.
She used to say, like, when I was off, or any of us, our sisters, she would say that we looked like Willy off the pickle boat.
Oh, I love it. You look like Willy off the pickle boat.
Yeah.
Okay, so
who is Willy and what is a pickle boat?
Okay, yeah. So okay, as a child, again. Somebody hearing this for the first time, as a child, what did that mean to you then? Can you give us so that we can understand it, and then how would we use those words and that wisdom in today's world?
I think what it meant is it was my first introduction to being imperfect. That's so much of what I talk about now, and sharing your story and being real, authentic, vulnerable. You know what? Sometimes we do look like Willy off the pickle boat.
You are right, sister. Yes.
And as I have looked back on my journey, hindsight is that I was journeying to this point where I am now my whole entire life, even though I didn't really land, so to speak, until a couple of years ago. So it is funny to me because I had thought of that phrase when I was sharing with you earlier, but yeah, I thought, oh, that's silly. And now, look, I came back to it because it must mean something to me. And I do believe that it has everything to do with embracing your unique imperfectness,
Oh, I love it. I love it. And that is so true. But that just the words of how that was expressed to you, but that stayed with you though. It's been within you this whole time. And it's amazing to me how these things affect us through our lives. And even as today is how we choose to, or what we do with our lives.
Exactly. And I think that things like a small phrase, it may seem small, but if you really look back into, when you do the deep dive into your past, those are the little things that you can come up with. It's more than just the hurt or trauma or drama or, dysfunctionality or whatever your story is in your life. It's also about those little phrases, those touching moments, those, because it's never all one thing. We focus sometimes on one thing. Oh, my life was bad because.
Right.
But we need to embrace all those positives too, because I have a story and I have a traumatic, story, but that's not what I come out with a lot of times.
Right.
Sometimes I come out with the beautiful things that I remember that were pieces and parts of that tapestry of what our story is.
Exactly. So, Michelle, thank you for playing with me. This is part of the research that I'm doing because you know how I work with clients. And it can get very deep and very emotional when we're trying to figure out our purpose and our why. Because I help people get from where they are currently finding themselves to where they want to be. But really, there's a lot that goes into why we are who we are, how we got here, and so that we can own that and be able to then, again, own it. So then we can try to figure out where we want to end up being. So wonderful. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you do. We share similar things in that you're right. You need to dig a little bit deep with your client.
Right.
Because it is from our story that we discover our why. Where I go another step further is that I help them to find ways to publish it and to share it with people so that it becomes a very powerful story. But it still all boils down to how important it is to understand your story, because that's how you move forward.
Exactly. And you and I, sister, are right on that same wavelength with that. So let me ask you, and I have some questions for you. What are the benefits of sharing your story? Because I know that there are, but we need, for our viewers and listeners, to get a better understanding of this, and who better to go to than you?
Well, and you're right. Thank you for asking that, because, the bottom line is we make decisions based on what's in it for me. And that's where I struggle a little bit, because so much of the benefit is emotional healing. And that's really hard to quantitate, as a benefit. But here's the thing. Once you've discovered what your why is, your true purpose in life, then personal relationships, business growth and relationship, everything that you do follows. So there's, I can name benefits like you can gain greater exposure and visibility. You can, having a book, best-selling book is the number one way to get on a podcast or another person's stage. So there's many things to that that is a very specific benefit. But what I feel is absolutely the top benefit that you get is that it will transform you in a very positive way. And I've seen it. Yeah. It is hard to exactly explain that transformation, but over and over and over again, the people I work with absolutely go through a transformation. They forgive themselves. They get rid of that shame that weighing down on their shoulders, that they realize that shame doesn't need to be there. There's nothing for them to be ashamed of. Exactly. They're able to let go of it. Those healing processes, which, forgiveness, or needing to forgive is toxic. It's just
right. It affects us in so many ways you don't even realize until you put your pen to paper and start that writing process and that journaling and start getting that rough draft out of you and down on paper.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So Michelle, what when you say that you've seen transformation occurring in the storytelling process, what does that mean to you, and how would you explain it to our viewers and listeners?
So what it looks like for me is, and I'll break it down to couple of different clients. So I think it paints a better picture.
Right.
So let's start with Myra, who she grew up in Puerto Rico, Catholic conservative family. she went through 5 marriages and divorces. I was like, wow, that's a lot. And I say that not so much judgmentally, but I say, wow, I want to hear that story, because how many people do we know have gone through 5 marriages and divorces? But to quickly get through her transformation was she carried such a burden of shame because of the family she grew up in, to be able to, you know, I mean, she couldn't say, she really couldn't share that she had had 5 divorces. But once she did, and she put it in a chapter in the lemonade stand, that it had no power anymore. And another client is Vicki Mudra, who she wrote a beautiful follow-up article for me in my magazine. And I love it because she talks about how she had to gaze, her words, you know, she had to gaze into the faces of each version of herself. Child, new mother, you know, wife, ending up with her husband being terminally ill, all these different points in time. And it wasn't until she looked at everything, the whole convergence of herself, that she discovered her why. So it means something different for everyone, because for some people, it will be one specific, as I call it, lemon, or it might be a bucket of lemons.
We know that, don't we? Yes. Yes, we do.
Yeah, I think about 35.
Yep. And you know, because I've been on your Lemonade Legend magazine, and I was on the cover one time with the whole spread inside. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, we know we know what Lemons to Lemonade's all about.
Yeah, we do at that. But I just want to emphasize that really you cannot box in transformation in one single description. Whatever the emotion is coming from, that is what is going to transform you. So if it's all about forgiveness, you'll find yourself in ability to forgive yourself, to forgive those who have wronged you, which will free you, energizes you. It is like a cleansing of the soul. So you really just have to kind of know what your situation is that you're coming from, and understand that through that process and in an act of sharing, you will transform, you will discover your courageousness, you know, confidence, leadership, all of those things that then plays into not only improve personal health, mental well-being, but business as well. Because we can't really do business if we're burdened down. True. with you know, with our own demons, right? And not only that, but people are surprisingly not only forgiving, but they connect when you share your story, because they themselves are probably afraid to share. So when you share, they say, wow, that was really courageous. That was brave. I'd like to know more about, you know, him or her.
Right.
And that's how people become attracted to you, to want to do business with you.
Exactly. And just being that authentic self. Oh my goodness, Michelle, you've shared so many wonderful things. I think that our viewers and listeners can definitely relate to this, and adding the story to that. And in today's world, it's really about being ourselves, whether it is in life and expressing who we are. Now more than ever, people are being themselves in the whole world, you know, whether it's personally or professionally, and expressing themselves that way. So, oh my goodness. So we need to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, 133 Approved Funding. We'll be right back with word from Michelle Faust.
Okay.
And we're back. For those of you that are just joining us now, I have with me Michelle Faust from Lemonade Legends. So we were talking about before about the story and sharing your story. So I have some more questions that really to dig deep with Michelle to find out more. I hope our viewers and listeners are really taking note of the importance of being able to be yourself and be authentic. So, Michelle, oh my goodness, I know your passion is helping people to connect with their stories and how to share it. So, what's behind that passion for you?
So what's behind the passion for me is that it took me many, many years to come to peace with my story. My story is complex. I'm not going to take a lot of time on the show right now, but a big part of it comes from having a severe hearing loss from birth. I spent most of my life trying to hide behind it, thinking I could hide it. It's pretty ridiculous because you can't hide something like that. Even though it's not visible, it becomes very apparent in conversation. Anyways, I fought a lot of things because of that. I had to prove myself. I had to be successful, when I didn't think success was possible. So at some point in my life, a few years ago, I felt like I had this huge, huge story to tell. And that story was not about my hearing loss. That story was, if I can do what I've done, anybody can do it. I felt fearless. I felt unstoppable. And I said, there has to be a way that I can get that message out because there are people who need to hear that. That's really the start, and where the passion comes from is that I put together an anthology that was Lemon to Lemonade stories, the Lemonade Stand. I thought it would be a one and done. But when I saw how people embraced the concept, not just the book, but the whole idea of sharing your story and being up front and letting that vulnerability out. I like to say that people get a little bit naked.
Right. But it is true. It's healing.
Yeah.
But it's very healing though.
And so I discovered something really incredible through that process. So the passion is from the bonding that I've seen with people, from experiencing their transformation and feeling good that I could serve some in that way. I've never had a disappointing experience with anyone in trying to share their story.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I want to go back, Michelle, because I know you felt like you had to do more and prove yourself. But so many people think that. But the thing is, that's all within ourselves, right? We want to do that so that we can, for us to be able to move forward, we need to feel that power that brings us, right? And what I work with clients in teaching them, we each have to have our own definition of what success is to us and what wealth is to us, because it's going to be different to every single one of us. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand that, and it takes them a while to get that, that wrapped around their minds to really know that we're not in competition with anybody else. It's really ourselves that we have to make happy, right?
Well, yeah, so true. And what I will say is, yes, I felt compelled to work harder than anybody else because I thought I had to compensate for the hearing loss. Right. What I really needed to do, and what I did do, is that I worked on honing those alternative communication skills. That is what made me so successful, because I was zoned in on my clients. Because I was in sales, I was zoned in, focusing because I had to in order to correctly hear them. So that helped to build the relationship. That meant that I really was hearing them because I was asking clarifying questions, checking in. So my clients knew that I cared about what they wanted, not what I wanted to push on them, but that I cared what they wanted. So I think that is the case with anyone. You might feel like you need to work harder than anybody else. But really all you need to do is you need to say, do I have a particular skill set that I need to improve? Right. Or, what is it that I can do so it's not working harder, it's working smarter?
Exactly. And I have grandchildren. One of my little guys has cerebral palsy, and for him it's going to be, he if he wants to do this, let's find a way so he will be able to do this. And oh, so I, this is near and dear to my heart. So oh my goodness. So I gotta move on to your next question that I have for you here, because people may want to know, and I really want to know, how did you come up with the name for your business?
Well, I first came up with the name for my book, The Lemonade Stand. It just resonated with me. It felt like, well, the whole lemon lemonade concept. It felt like community, because it made me think of community as a lemonade stand in a neighborhood. Also made me think of the Peanuts character Lucy, who used to have her, the doctor is in sign, because it is such a mentally healing process. So all of that really resonated, and that turned into the title of the book. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the domain.
Oh, okay.
It was taken. So I just had to decide on what was a variation that would work. And I came up with Lemonade Legend because I do believe we are all legends of our own stories. And if you look up the definition of legends, it so beautifully fits in with what we're doing. Like, one of the reasons I wanted to write my story in my first book, my chapter, I wanted to leave a legacy to my children. I wanted them to understand what it was I went through, not because, oh, poor mom, I wanted them to see the power and the energy and everything that came out of that. And I felt they could understand it better written, and sort of like a third party kind of, rather than me just telling them.
Oh, exactly. And I relate to that so much. And you're familiar with me in my book. And for that, I wanted to leave a legacy for my grandchildren, because what I put in the book, for people to be able to achieve their dreams and goals, I put it, and it's written as a tool. So when my grandchildren get older and old enough, because they're not yet there, but when they're old enough, I have the textbooks written for them to be able to do it. So,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. Oh my goodness.
it is.
So Michelle, what if you have more than one lemon in your life? What would you say to do?
Well, if you have more lemons in your life than one, I mean, you can certainly write a book. Obviously, a book can encompass so many stories, so many parts of our story. But one of the reasons I created the platform that I did was to give people just about every opportunity possible to, find something that worked for them. Do they want to just write a chapter, which in that case would be focusing on one lemon? Do they want to write an article in a magazine, or have an exclusive magazine, which again, they're going to tell their story a little bit differently. So it really boils down to what's your comfort level in sharing, what's your budget, because they all have different cost factors. And maybe even a podcast, just to sort of tiptoe, be a guest on my podcast and tiptoe into your story and see how it feels. So it can be one lemon, it can be a dozen lemons. The process really is all the same in getting started with it and starting to put it down on paper and see how far you want to go with it.
Oh, so, and I know you do an amazing job with what it is you do, and how you bring people's stories to life with all respect and empathy and passion of how you help them to be able to share. So Michelle, how I have your website below here for us, but can you tell everybody what it is if they're not watching it right now, so if they can hear you say it? And then I want to know if you have any gifts for our viewers and listeners.
Sure. So my website is pretty easy to remember. It's lemonadelegend.com. And if you go in there, you'll find a way to, the contact me page. There's also a form you can click on that share my story. It's just a little brief synopsis. And then we can have a discovery call and talk about what do you want to do with it? Here's your little bit of a story. How do we dive into it and put it out there? So that's what I would say is go to the website. My email is Michelle with 2 L's at lemonadelegend.com. So you can contact me really in a number of ways. You can find my Facebook group, the Lemonade Stand Community, on Facebook and request to join. So all of that are different ways in which to reach out to me. And then I'll walk you through the process. What else did you want
to know? The gift. I know that you had said if they email you, you would give them, I remember it was something.
So what I have is 100 creative ideas to market your book. However, it can be marketing just about anything because the process is all the same. But as a publisher, I focus on books. And so if you email me at michelle@lemonadelegend.com, I'd be happy to send you that PDF. It's doing some of the work yourself to come up with it, but I walk you through how to come up with 100 creative ideas to market your book.
Oh my goodness, Michelle. I know that our viewers and listeners, I'm sure you'll have a bunch of people reaching out to you. So I want to just say, for those of you who'd like to find out more about me and how I serve, you can go to patriciajogrover.com. And if you'd like to take advantage of the gift that I have for you, if you're in the continental US, you can text the word GOAL, GOAL, to 26786. If you're outside the continental US, it's 1-866-926-4020. And for the people who don't like to text, if you go to https:// bit.ly/PJG gifts. And we have a little video for you as we wrap things up and coming right up. So thank you again for being with me, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And until next time, rise above the challenges that life brings your way and have a great day.